Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Today, I'm going to do some news stories, but I'm behind on this, so I have a lot of them in front of me that I found interesting. So today, I'm going to give you a brief overview and then send you off to find out more on your own. If that sounds good, we can get going. These are the news stories that I found interesting this week. There are links in the show notes and links at juiceboxpodcast.com if you'd like to read the complete article. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. Don't forget, if you're a U.S. resident who has type 1 or is the caregiver of someone with type 1, visit t1dexchange.org/juicebox right now and complete that survey. It will take you 10 minutes to complete the survey, and that effort alone will help to move type 1 diabetes research forward. It will cost you nothing to help. To save 40% off of your entire order at CozyEarth.com, all you have to do is use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. That's JUICEBOX at checkout to save 40% at CozyEarth.com. When you place your first order for AG1 with my link, you'll get 5 free travel packs and a free year's supply of vitamin D. Drink AG1.com/juicebox. I know that Facebook has a bad reputation, but please give the private Facebook group for the Juicebox Podcast a healthy once-over. Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. This story is in news-medical.net. It says here that despite high use of continuous glucose monitoring and insulin pump therapy, fear of hypoglycemia remains a significant barrier to physical activity and exercise for adults with type 1 diabetes. Now, this is according to a new research study that will be presented at this year's annual meeting of the European Association for the Study of Diabetes in Madrid. Looks like that already happened in September. Here's a quote from Dr. Farrell from the University of Dundee in Scotland. Regular exercise can help individuals with diabetes to achieve their blood glucose goals, improve their body composition and fitness, as well as reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes, which is higher in people with type 1 diabetes. Yet many people living with type 1 do not maintain a healthy body weight or manage to do the recommended amount of physical activity each week. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link in the show notes. And if you'd like to learn about exercising with type 1 diabetes, check out the Diabetes Pro Tip series at diabetesprotip.com. They begin at episode 1000 right here in the Juicebox Podcast. I have one here from, smoking cessation and weight gain. Dr. Luba Yamin from UT Health Houston is investigating the link between smoking and weight gain. Many people fear gaining weight after quitting smoking, which of course can discourage them from trying to quit. So they're using GLPs with people who are trying to quit smoking. They are studying the GLP-1 agonist, which of course is a class of drugs commonly used for treating type 2 diabetes, as a potential aid for quitting smoking while also managing your weight. Initial trials showed promising results with a higher quit rate among participants who received the GLP-1 compared to the placebo. Those on the GLP-1 treatment also experienced less weight gain. The doctor says they're trying to conduct larger scale clinical trials to further evaluate the effectiveness of GLP-1 for smoking. So now there's a mix here. Is the GLP helping to take away your craving for smoking, or is it helping to cover for hunger when you remove the nicotine? It's an interesting question, and if you'd like to read the article, there's a link in the show notes. This one at htworld.co.uk says that tens of thousands of children and eligible adults living with type 1 diabetes across England are set to receive an artificial pancreas thanks to cost-effective deals secured by the NHS with suppliers of the technology. If you're interested in learning more, there's a link in the show notes. This one's from sciencealert.com. While some speculate that trigger for type 1 diabetes could be a virus, a new study led by researchers from Cardiff University in the UK points in a different direction. Type 1 diabetes, it says, might start with proteins on bacteria sparking an ominous shift in the immune system. The quote here is type 1 diabetes, of course, is an autoimmune disease that usually affects children and young adults. That's not completely true at all, where the cells that produce insulin are attacked by the patient's own immune system. Okay, they got that right. Let's see. This leads to the lack of insulin. Yeah. Okay, come on. What's the part about the bacteria? His colleagues linked the loss of insulin-producing cells with killer T cells, a class of white blood cells that kill certain other cells, including cancer cells or cells infected by a pathogen. Killer T cells seem to play a key role in causing type 1 diabetes as they kill off beta cells. This new study, the researcher found that the killer T cells begin doing this when activated by bacterial proteins, specifically proteins from bacteria known to infect humans, like a word here that I can't pronounce. If you'd like to learn more, I will leave a link in the show notes of the podcast player you're listening in right now and the corresponding webpage for this episode at juiceboxpodcast.com. This one is from wash.edu. Potential type 1 diabetes treatment may stem from outsmarting immune cells. Birkeland leads preclinical research with a $2.6 million grant from the Helmsley Trust. There is a lot of scientific, what I'm going to call gobbledygook in this little thing here. If you want to hear more about what they're trying to do, of course, look in the show notes for the WashU link and read all about it. This one is more type 2 related out of India, theprint.in. Fried, baked, and ultra-processed foods are fueling India's diabetes epidemic. This new study says, studies published in the Internal Journal of Food Sciences and Nutrition says having foods low in advanced glycation end products can mitigate burden of obesity-linked type 2 diabetes. This is out of New Delhi. Foods such as cakes, chips, cookies, crackers, and fried foods, mayonnaise, margarine, and ultra-processed foods, which are rich in advanced glycation and it's AGEs, are a leading cause behind India being the world's diabetic capital, it says. These AGEs are reactive and potentially toxic compounds formed when proteins or lipids are glycated or modified by aldose sugars, which are carbohydrates within the aldehyde group. This is a government-funded trial. If you want to read more about it, I, of course, left links at the website and in your show notes. Staying on this path, this is at foodandwine.com. These 4 ultra-processed foods raise your diabetes risk more than others, according to a new study. The study, which was published in the Lancet Regional Health Europe, analyzed data from more than 300,000 people across 8 European countries for an average of 10.9 years. They found that for every 10% increase in the amount of a person's diet made up by ultra-processed foods, that person had a 17% higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. But within the ultra-processed food category, some were worse than others for diabetes risks. This goes on to explain what ultra-processed foods are, what type 2 diabetes is, but here are the 4 things they came up with. Savory snacks, like salty packaged snacks and chips. These are often loaded with unhealthy fat, salt, and refined carbohydrates, which can contribute to insulin resistance, inflammation, and ultimately a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Ultra-processed meats, like bacon, sausage, and lunch meats, usually have higher levels of sodium, preservatives like nitrates, and unhealthy fats. Ready-to-eat meats, what does that mean? These meals are convenient, but may not help your health. A lot of ready-to-eat meals will include ingredients that are high in saturated fats, added sugar, and sodium. Ready-to-eat meals are also low in fiber, protein, and essential nutrients. The lack of fiber and high-calorie content can promote overeating. Boy, ready-to-eat meals, I guess like frozen food and stuff like that. And then sweetened drinks. The study found that drinks sweetened with added sugar, as well as those with artificial sugars, raise the risk of type 2 diabetes. Sweetened drinks will include a lot of added sugar, and added sugar has been associated with increased inflammation in the body. While artificially sweetened drinks don't usually contain added sugar, they may disrupt the gut microbiome and trigger cravings for sugary foods. Okay, if you want to learn more about that, you know where to find the link. Tickets for the 2025 Juice Cruise are limited. I'm not just saying that, they actually are limited. We have a certain window to sell them in, and then that's it. juiceboxpodcast.com, scroll down to the Juice Cruise banner, click on it, find a cabin that works for you, and register right now. You are absolutely limited by time on this one. I'm so sorry to say that. It sounds pushy, but it's the absolute truth. Juice Cruise 2025. I hope to see you there. We're going to get a tan, talk about diabetes, and meet a ton of great people who are living with diabetes. It's kind of going to be like floating diabetes camp, but you won't have to sleep in a log cabin. You'll get a tan, and it's not just for adults or kids. It's for everybody. Introductory pricing probably will change on October 15th, so if you're really interested, put your deposit down now. I hope to see you on the cruise. If you or a loved one was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and you're looking for some fresh perspective, the Bold Beginnings series from the Juicebox Podcast is a terrific place to start. That series is with myself and Jenny Smith. Jenny is a CDCES, a registered dietitian, and a type 1 for over 35 years. And in the Bold Beginnings series, Jenny and I are going to answer the questions that most people have after a type 1 diabetes diagnosis. The series begins at episode 698 in your podcast player, or you can go to juiceboxpodcast.com and click on Bold Beginnings in the menu. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. If you're not already subscribed or following the podcast in your favorite audio app like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please do that now. Seriously, just to hit follow or subscribe will really help the show. If you go a little further in Apple Podcasts and set it up so that it downloads all new episodes, I'll be your best friend. And if you leave a 5-star review, I'll probably send you a Christmas card. Would you like a Christmas card?